The 1920s in America were supposed to usher in a new era of morality and temperance, a noble experiment as it was called. But instead, Prohibition turned the nation upside down. On January 17, 1920, the 18th Amendment went into effect, banning the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol. It was a bold move, championed by temperance advocates who believed it would purify society, reduce crime, and strengthen families. But can you imagine? Instead of sobering up the nation, it sparked a roaring rebellion. Almost overnight, speakeasies, hidden bars and clubs, began popping up like mushrooms after a rainstorm. In cities like New York, Chicago, and New Orleans, the public refused to let go of their cocktails and champagne. Secret supper clubs became the beating heart of this underground culture. Behind unmarked doors, down dimly lit alleys, and even in basements of seemingly ordinary businesses, people gathered to dine, drink, and dance. You'd knock on a door, whisper a password like "Joe sent me," and suddenly you were transported into a world of jazz music, clinking glasses, and plates piled high with lobster thermidor or prime rib for just $1.50. These clubs weren't just about alcohol, they were about defiance, community, and indulgence. Places like the Cotton Club in Harlem or the Green Mill in Chicago became legendary, hosting icons like Duke Ellington and Al Capone. Can you picture it? The smoky air, the laughter, the thrill of breaking the rules. Those were the days when a nickel could buy you a loaf of bread, but $10 could buy you an unforgettable night of underground luxury. What's surprising is how deeply Prohibition backfired. Instead of reducing crime, it fueled it. Bootleggers and gangsters like Capone made fortunes smuggling liquor from Canada or brewing it in hidden stills. Even ordinary citizens got creative, hiding flasks in their garters or brewing bathtub gin at home. By 1925, New York City alone had an estimated 32,000 speakeasies, far more than the number of legal bars before Prohibition. The public's resistance was so strong that enforcement became nearly impossible. The noble experiment, as it turned out, was anything but noble. It gave rise to a culture of secrecy, rebellion, and excess that defined the Roaring Twenties. And it all started with a law that tried to dry up America but instead soaked it in defiance. Those were the days when the nation learned that sometimes, the harder you try to control people, the more they'll find a way to break free. The dim glow of gaslight flickered against stained glass windows as a hushed password slipped past the velvet curtain. Inside, the air was thick with laughter, clinking glasses, and the sweet wail of a jazz trumpet. This wasn't just a speakeasy, it was a supper club, where the elite of the Roaring Twenties dined on lobster thermidor and sipped bootleg champagne behind the facade of a private social club. Can you imagine slipping into one of these hidden havens, where the thrill of breaking the law was served alongside filet mignon? By 1925, the rough-and-tumble backroom bars had evolved into something far more sophisticated. Take New York's El Fay Club, run by the infamous Larry Fay. His place boasted crystal chandeliers, a 12-piece orchestra, and waiters in tuxedos serving $5 plates of oysters Rockefeller. That was a fortune back then, nearly a week's wages for the average worker. But for those who could afford it, the experience was worth every penny. They'd dance the Charleston on polished mahogany floors, then retreat to plush leather booths where the real business of the night happened, whispered stock tips, political deals, and the occasional bribe to keep the cops at bay. Out in Chicago, the Green Mill Gardens disguised itself as a quaint tea room by day, but by night, Al Capone's men held court in the back, smoking Cuban cigars and ordering rounds of ginger ale, code for top-shelf Canadian whiskey. The menus were works of art, printed daily on fine cardstock, listing medicinal tonics at $1.50 a glass. And here's a little secret, some of these clubs even had hidden tunnels behind the kitchens, leading to neighboring buildings in case of raids. Oh, the stories those walls could tell. The clatter of silverware, the murmur of secret toasts, the way a waiter would casually slide a note across the table, "The ice delivery is late tonight," meaning the coast wasn't clear. Those were the days when a handshake meant more than a contract, and the best parties were the ones you weren't supposed to know about. From the sawdust floors of early speakeasies to the gilded supper clubs where society's finest rubbed elbows with gangsters, Prohibition didn't stop America from drinking, it just made the experience unforgettable. In the shadowy world of Prohibition-era supper clubs, gaining entry was an art form in itself. These hidden havens of indulgence weren't just about sipping gin or dancing the Charleston, they were exclusive sanctuaries, and getting through the door required more than just a friendly smile. Can you imagine the thrill of standing before an unmarked door, heart racing, knowing that behind it lay a world of forbidden delights? The first hurdle was often a password, a whispered phrase that could mean the difference between a night of revelry and a cold walk home. Some clubs, like the infamous Club 21 in New York City, used clever codes that changed nightly. Tonight's password, the doorman might ask, and you'd reply with something like, "The owl hoots at midnight." If you got it right, the door would swing open, revealing a glittering world of jazz, laughter, and clinking glasses. Other establishments relied on secret knocks, 3 short raps, followed by 2 long ones, to signal your arrival. It was a game of trust, and the stakes were high. Membership cards were another popular way to vet guests. Clubs like the Cotton Club in Harlem issued ornate, embossed cards that served as your golden ticket. These cards weren't cheap, some cost as much as $20, a small fortune in the 1920s when the average worker earned less than $1,500 a year. But for those who could afford it, the privilege was worth every penny. The doormen who guarded these hidden entrances were legends in their own right. Take Big Joe, the towering bouncer at Chicago's Green Mill. Known for his sharp eyes and even sharper instincts, Big Joe could spot an undercover Prohibition agent from a block away. He once turned away a group of well-dressed men who claimed to be wealthy businessmen only to later discover they were federal agents armed with search warrants. One surprising detail? Some clubs even employed female bouncers, like Ruby the Enforcer Smith, who patrolled the doors of a speakeasy in Detroit. At just 5 feet 2 inches, Ruby was small in stature but fierce in spirit. She carried a blackjack in her purse and wasn't afraid to use it. Those were the days when even the rules of gender roles were bent in the name of keeping the party alive. Getting into a Prohibition-era supper club wasn't just about having the right password or membership card, it was about proving you belonged to a secret world where the rules of everyday life didn't apply. It was a time when trust was currency, and the doorman was the gatekeeper to a night you'd never forget. In the smoky backrooms of Prohibition-era America, some of the finest chefs in the country traded their white jackets for anonymity, leaving the grandeur of hotels like the Waldorf Astoria and the Palmer House to cook in secret supper clubs. These culinary maestros risked everything, their reputations, their freedom, to keep the art of fine dining alive during a time when indulgence was outlawed. Can you imagine? Chefs who once commanded kitchens filled with gleaming copper pots and porcelain plates now worked in dimly lit basements, crafting dishes that whispered of luxury in a decade defined by scarcity. One such chef was Henri Charpentier, a legend who had famously created crêpes Suzette for the Prince of Wales. During Prohibition, Henri traded the opulence of Delmonico's for a clandestine kitchen in Chicago, where he served his signature dish to gangsters and socialites alike. Those were the days when a plate of his crepes could fetch $5, a small fortune when the average meal cost a quarter. Henri wasn't alone. Chefs like Oscar Cherky, the Oscar of the Waldorf, also slipped into the shadows, bringing their expertise to hidden venues where the elite could still savor the flavors of pre-Prohibition America. Sourcing ingredients was a delicate dance. With rationing and strict regulations, chefs relied on underground networks to procure everything from foie gras to fresh truffles. Dairy farmers in Wisconsin smuggled butter across state lines, while fishermen in Maine quietly delivered lobsters to backdoor kitchens. One surprising detail? Many chefs used canned goods, but not just any cans. Luxury brands like Libby's and Heinz were repurposed into gourmet dishes. A can of tomato soup became a velvety bisque, and canned peaches transformed into elegant desserts. It was a testament to their ingenuity, turning necessity into artistry. Signature dishes from these hidden kitchens became legendary. Think of tender beef Wellington, served with a side of secrecy, or lobster thermidor, its creamy richness a stark contrast to the austerity outside. And then there were the cocktails, mocktails, really crafted with care to mask the absence of alcohol. A Shirley Temple, born in this era, became a symbol of the underground spirit of defiance. These chefs were more than cooks, they were keepers of culture, ensuring that the tastes of a bygone era didn't vanish with the temperance laws. Their kitchens were sanctuaries, their dishes acts of rebellion. And though their names may not have been celebrated in the papers, their legacy lives on in every bite of those unforgettable meals. Those were the days when dining wasn't just about food, it was about daring to dream in a world that tried to say no. The Roaring Twenties were a time of contradictions, a decade of glittering jazz and shadowy speakeasies, where the forbidden glass of liquor became a symbol of rebellion. But while Prohibition outlawed the sale of alcohol, it didn't stifle America's thirst. Instead, it sparked a cocktail renaissance, a creative explosion that transformed mixology into an art form. Can you imagine the challenge? Bootlegged liquor was often rough, even dangerous, so bartenders had to find ways to mask the taste. And that's how some of the most iconic cocktails of all time were born. Take the bee's knees, for example. This simple yet elegant cocktail combined gin, honey, and lemon juice, ingredients that not only smoothed out the harshness of homemade gin but also added a touch of sweetness. Legend has it that the name came from 1920s slang for the best, and it certainly lived up to its reputation. Then there was the Mary Pickford, named after the silent film star herself. A blend of rum, pineapple juice, grenadine, and maraschino liqueur, it was a tropical escape in a glass, perfect for sipping in a dimly lit speakeasy after a long day of dodging the law. But perhaps no cocktail embodied the spirit of the era quite like the sidecar. Born in Paris but quickly embraced in American speakeasies, it mixed brandy, lemon juice, and orange liqueur into a drink that was both sophisticated and refreshing. Some say it was named after the motorcycle sidecars that carried patrons to hidden clubs, while others claim it was invented by a bartender who served it to a customer arriving in one. Either way, it became a staple of the era. And let's not forget the Moscow Mule, which, despite its name, was actually invented in New York City. Vodka, ginger beer, and lime juice came together in a copper mug, creating a drink that was both bold and refreshing. It's hard to believe now, but back then, vodka was practically unknown in America. This cocktail helped change that. What's fascinating is how these drinks were more than just recipes, they were symbols of ingenuity and resilience. Bartenders became alchemists, turning rough spirits into liquid gold. And for patrons, ordering a cocktail wasn't just about the drink, it was about belonging to a secret world, a fleeting escape from the constraints of prohibition. Those were the days when a sip of something forbidden could make you feel truly alive. The dim glow of candlelight, the clink of glasses filled with bootleg gin, and the sultry sounds of a trumpet drifting through the smoky air, this was the magic of the Prohibition-era supper clubs. Hidden behind unmarked doors and secret passwords, these illegal venues became the beating heart of jazz in the 1920s. Can you imagine stepping into a place like Chicago's Green Mill or New York's Cotton Club, where the music was as intoxicating as the drinks they served? Those were the days when jazz was still young, raw, and rebellious, and supper clubs became its sanctuary. In these backroom havens, legends were born. Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Bessie Smith all honed their craft in these shadowy spaces. It's hard to believe now, but Armstrong was earning just $25 a week playing in Chicago's Dreamland Cafe, a pittance compared to the fame he'd later achieve. But it wasn't about the money, it was about the music. Jazz was the soundtrack of a generation breaking free from tradition, and the supper clubs were its pulpit. The atmosphere was electric. Patrons would sip cocktails like the Bee's Knees or the Southside Fizz, paying upwards of $2 for a drink, a small fortune in an era when a loaf of bread cost just 9 cents. The clubs were often packed with a mix of flappers, gangsters, and socialites, all rubbing elbows in defiance of the Volstead Act. Al Capone himself was a regular at Chicago's speakeasies, and it was rumored he had a private booth at the Four Deuces, where he'd listen to jazz while conducting his illicit business. One little-known fact? Many of these clubs were owned or protected by mobsters, who saw jazz as a way to draw in crowds and profits. But for the musicians, it was a chance to experiment. Duke Ellington once said that the Cotton Club was his laboratory, where he could blend blues, ragtime, and classical music into something entirely new. And the audiences? They couldn't get enough. The Charleston, the Black Bottom, and the Lindy Hop all thrived on those cramped dance floors, fueled by the energy of the music and the thrill of doing something forbidden. There's something bittersweet about remembering these places. They were illegal, yes, but they were also alive with creativity and community. Jazz in the Backroom wasn't just music, it was a rebellion, a celebration, and a promise of a brighter, freer future. Those nights, those songs, those smoky rooms, they left an indelible mark on American culture. And for those who were there, it was a secret worth keeping. In the smoky, dimly lit corners of 1920s speakeasies, fashion wasn't just about style, it was a declaration of defiance. The Prohibition era birthed a sartorial revolution, where clothing became a canvas for rebellion, cleverly designed to hide flasks, evade suspicion, and signal solidarity with the underground. Can you imagine stepping into one of these secret supper clubs, where the air buzzed with jazz, the clink of glasses, and the swish of silk? Those were the days when a dress wasn't just a dress, it was a statement. The flapper dress became the uniform of the modern woman, rejecting Victorian corsets for loose, flowing silhouettes that allowed freedom of movement and, more importantly, easy access to hidden pockets. Designers like Coco Chanel and Jean Patou created dresses with discreet compartments, perfect for stashing a flask of gin or whiskey. A typical flapper dress, sold at stores like Macy's for around $15 a week's wages for many, featured intricate beadwork and fringe that swayed hypnotically with every dance step. But beneath the glamour, it was practical, even daring. Some dresses had hollowed-out seams or hidden zippers, allowing women to smuggle alcohol past watchful eyes. For men, the zoot suit emerged as the ultimate symbol of rebellion. With its wide-legged trousers, oversized jackets, and bold patterns, it was a flamboyant middle finger to Prohibition's moralizers. Tailors in cities like Chicago and New York crafted suits with secret pockets sewn into the lining for flasks or small bottles. A custom-made zoot suit could cost upwards of $50, a luxury reserved for the boldest of bootleggers and jazz musicians. The suit's exaggerated silhouette wasn't just about style, it was a clever disguise. Law enforcement often overlooked the baggy folds, unaware of what they concealed. One surprising fact? Even accessories got in on the act. Women's garters, often adorned with lace and silk, doubled as flask holders, while men's hats sometimes hid a secret compartment for a nip of whiskey. Brands like Van Heusen and Hart Schaffner Marks marketed prohibition-proof clothing, blending practicality with panache. In places like New York's Cotton Club or Chicago's Green Mill, fashion was more than attire, it was armor, a badge of honor for those who dared to defy the dry laws. Those were the days when every stitch told a story, every hemline hid a secret. The fashion of rebellion wasn't just about looking good, it was about living boldly, dancing on the edge of the law, and savoring the forbidden. Can you imagine the thrill of stepping into a speakeasy, knowing your very clothes were part of the act? That was the magic of the 1920s, a decade where style and subversion walked hand in hand. The dim glow of Edison bulbs reflected off polished mahogany bars, casting long shadows across checkered tablecloths. This was no ordinary supper club, this was Chicago's Green Mill Gardens in 1925, where Al Capone's men sipped bootleg gin from teacups while jazz floated through the haze of cigarette smoke. Can you imagine slipping past the bouncer, the hidden door swinging shut behind you? Inside, the air was thick with the scent of sizzling T-bone steaks and Chanel No. 5, or a $2 plate of spaghetti could buy you an audience with the underworld. Those were the days when gangsters didn't just run the streets, they ran the kitchens, too. Meyer Lansky's favorite spot, the Embassy Club in Manhattan, served lobster thermidor for $3.50 a plate, a small fortune when the average factory worker made $25 a week. The waiters?
Off-duty cops, paid in crisp bills tucked under napkins.
And oh, the menus.
Printed daily to dodge raids, they'd list ginger ale for whiskey, maple syrup for rum. Out in Detroit, the Purple Gang turned the Chalfont Hotel into a dining paradise, white-gloved service, crystal chandeliers, and Tommy guns stashed under the oyster bar.
But here's something you won't find in most history books: the mob's secret ingredient wasn't fear, it was nostalgia. Capone insisted his clubs feel like home, hiring Italian grandmothers to roll pasta by hand, serving Sunday gravy just like his mama used to make. At New York's 21 Club, the hidden wine cellar behind a false wall held 20,000 bottles of confiscated French Bordeaux, saved for special guests like Mayor Jimmy Walker. And in Cleveland, the theatrical grill became a haven for actors and hitmen alike, where a $5 tip could get you a front-row seat to a real-life gangland drama. The jazz played on, the ice clinked in glasses, and for a few stolen hours, even the toughest hoodlums softened. They'd lean back in their chairs, pat their pockets full of cash, and watch the dancers sway to "Ain't We Got Fun?" Little did they know, the party couldn't last forever. The feds were coming, the speakeasy signs would fade, but oh, what a feast it was while it lasted. The 1920s were a time of glitz, glamour, and danger, especially for those who dared to defy prohibition. In the heart of cities like Chicago, New York, and New Orleans, secret supper clubs thrived behind unmarked doors and hidden alleys. These weren't just places to sip illegal gin, they were sanctuaries of indulgence, where jazz filled the air, and the aroma of gourmet meals mingled with the scent of smuggled whiskey. But with every night of revelry came the ever-present threat of police raids. Can you imagine the adrenaline rush when a club's warning system suddenly lit up, signaling a raid was moments away? Many clubs had elaborate systems to alert patrons. In Chicago's Green Mill, a buzzer system connected directly to the speakeasy next door would sound the alarm. Patrons would scramble to stash their drinks, while bartenders swiftly flipped tables to hide bottles. In New York's Cotton Club, a lookout stationed on the rooftop would flash a red light down to the dance floor. Those were the days when quick thinking and a bit of luck could mean the difference between freedom and a night in jail. I remember hearing stories of secret trapdoors and hidden tunnels. Some clubs even had false walls that could swallow entire bars in seconds. One of the most famous close calls happened at Detroit's Club Frontenac, where Al Capone himself was said to have been a regular. When police stormed the club one chilly November night, the staff activated a hidden chute that sent dozens of bottles of Canadian whiskey sliding into the Detroit River. Legend has it that Capone, mid-sip, escaped through a trapdoor that led to the basement of a neighboring bakery. The police found nothing but empty chairs and a piano still playing. Those were the days of high-stakes hide-and-seek. But not all clubs were so lucky. In 1927, Boston's famed Silver Slipper was raided, and over 200 patrons were arrested. The raid made headlines, with newspapers detailing the confiscated bootleg liquor and the $10 steaks left uneaten. Yet, even after such crackdowns, many clubs reopened within weeks, sometimes in the same location under a new name. It's astonishing how these establishments became a symbol of resilience, operating for years untouched, thanks to bribes, clever disguises, and the loyalty of their patrons. Can you imagine the thrill of stepping into one of these hidden worlds, knowing every sip of gin was a toast to rebellion? The secret supper clubs of Prohibition weren't just places to drink, they were a testament to the ingenuity and defiance of an era that refused to stay dry. The final days of Prohibition were marked by a bittersweet blend of celebration and uncertainty. By late 1933, the whispers of repeal grew louder, and the secret supper clubs that had thrived in shadows began to prepare for their last hurrah. Places like Chicago's Green Mill and New York's Cotton Club, once bustling with speakeasy energy, now buzzed with a sense of nostalgia. Can you imagine the scene? The clink of glasses, the smoky haze of cigarettes, the low hum of jazz bands playing their final sets. These were the days when a plate of spaghetti at a hidden club cost 50 cents, and a bottle of bootleg champagne could set you back $5, a small fortune for many, but a price worth paying for a taste of forbidden luxury. As December 5, 1933,
Approached the day repeal would officially take effect, patrons and proprietors alike wondered what the future held.
Would these clandestine venues survive in a world where alcohol was legal again?
Some, like New York's 21 Club, transitioned seamlessly into legitimate establishments, their secret doors and hidden cellars becoming relics of a bygone era. Others, like Detroit's notorious Purple Gang hideouts, faded into obscurity, their illicit charm no longer needed. It's fascinating to think that some of these clubs, like San Francisco's Bohemian Club, actually preserved elements of American dining culture, introducing patrons to exotic dishes and sophisticated cocktails they might never have tried otherwise.
But not all was lost in the transition.
The supper clubs left an indelible mark on American culture, shaping the way we dine and socialize to this day. They brought people together across class lines, creating spaces where a factory worker might rub elbows with a Wall Street tycoon. And they gave rise to iconic dishes like Waldorf